Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's session with Ionir. I'm Garima Vajpayee, your host and founder for the Devops community of practice here in Canada, which has 3 chapters, Toronto, Ottawa, and Edmonton. I welcome you all for one of the last sessions in December 2021. We have brought in Ionir, which is a very innovative company, and it has a very innovative product in the Kubernetes space. So I would like to give the forum to Chris and Barak to talk about the product as well as what it brings to the table for DevOps professionals. So over to you, Barak.
Sure. Chris, do you want to give a couple of points?
I just want to say we're very welcome. We're very excited about working with the community. I'm located in Ottawa, Canada, or Bellimo, which you mentioned north of the city. So we look forward to working with you guys. We have all kinds of exciting things to tell you about. And in the end, we'll talk about, you can do a POC with us during the holidays if you wish. We're conducting these. But before we get too much into that, I'd like for you to learn about the product. Please ask questions. And Barak, it's over to you. I look forward to meeting you all as well. Thank you.
Perfect. Thanks, Chris. Thanks, everyone, for joining. As mentioned, my name is Barak. I'm based out of Israel, and it's a bit late here, but I'm very excited and very honored to be here with you guys and the ones that are watching the recording when it's ready. As we talked in the introduction, we are here to present Ionir, and Ionir is a Kubernetes data services for DevOps. My presentation, I prepared a short presentation about 20 minutes or so, just to walk you through the the world that we live in, what kind of problems we see with our customers, how we solve them, and a bit more points on benefits and places that we see our product involving the world of DevOps. So I'm gonna dive right in. So I'm not gonna talk about DevOps specifically. I guess most of you knows what it is here, but the point that I really wanna start off our presentation or our conversation is the world of Kubernetes and DevOps. And we see more and more companies and DevOps professionals realizing the power of Kubernetes in means of orchestration of tasks and steps within their CI/CD pipelines, and really using the power of Kubernetes to enable them to move faster and to create more value for them. As they move forward with the technology world. In the past, most of it has been using we can call it like monolith VMs, but we see that the DevOps space has moved very strongly towards the Kubernetes world, and it's impacting also production. So this is like a good blessing for us. We see customers using Kubernetes in the DevOps environment, testing environment, staging, and so on, and that brought the confidence and the capabilities to deploy that on production as well. The purpose for us as we bring data services to DevOps, CI/CD pipelines in general, is the fact that we handle all the data weight. We call it data weight, but all steps of your workflow that contain data. This is where we play, and this is where we bring value. So it can be, I have a few slides about specific use cases as well, but in general, there's a lot of data coming in and coming out through your pipeline. Most of the pipelines today are managed in an ephemeral way, let's say. So whatever you built, whatever you created, in most cases, you destroy at the end of the test, and you don't have that history and don't have that, that data capability, because it's very complex and it's very, not intuitive to the pipeline itself. Starting from things like, pulling your code, configurations and logs in your environment, your workspaces, artifact and packages, Docker images, you pull and push them, from your Artifactory in different, external resources. This is what most customers are doing today, because the fact that they don't have a solution that can really bring them data persistency and data agility that the DevOps world really needs. This is one end, and the second way, second approach of it is the fact that a lot of tests are done with mockups, with test data, with the back end is something that is simulated and is not something that is close enough to production in means of, let's say, a database that is used to run tests on, if you're doing schema changes or whatever interaction that you have in your environment, that is somehow lacking in the world of tests and CI in general. So we see a lot of customers, they wait a lot of time to create synthetic databases for their environment, and then they spend a lot of time waiting for that to be propagated for them to continue and work or continue the flow of their CI pipeline. But if you have even Maven packages that are downloaded multiple times, you've probably seen that in all of your CI environments, the multiple and repetitive way that we inject and also extract data from our pipeline. This is what we are really aiming to solve with our solution. So this is where we live, as I mentioned. So we have a few data related points that, as I mentioned, about getting information in and out of our environment. And this is something that we have to wait to be let's say done completely. So we cannot start or continue to the next step before we have finished loading all the data that we need for this pipeline, right? And on the other hand, we also have, this is an example report that we have from Redgate about the state of introducing databases or the database world to the DevOps practices. And we see there's a lot of benefits and incentives to introducing data to your pipeline, to your test environment for specific and getting data closer to where the app lives. So, Kubernetes made it very easy for applications to move around and to be deployed, in different clusters and different environments and, in repetitive ways and orchestrated, but data has remained something that is very siloed and very detached from the Kubernetes world. And this is exactly what we're aiming to fix here. So this is exactly like the use cases that we wanted to highlight to make sure that we touch upon with our customers. So I'm going to go briefly on the high level of them, and we have a few use cases that are a deeper dive a little bit later. And I have a few pieces on a demo if we have time, and we go ahead and do that as well. So in essence, the high level and where we see this capability is really impacting, CI/CD pipelines is throughout this, what we call a developer workspace. So we see, a lot of developers like to have their own environment or their own platform to do tests and to do, running of their own piece of code before they, commit that to the master or commit that to the master branch that needs to be compiled at a team level or a product level. So that is a piece, or that is a place that we can really, bring value to these kind of platforms. Another use case is about scaling, either in parallel or horizontal scaling in the world of Jenkins, for example, where if you think about how things are done previously or before introducing data into your pipeline, each slave in essence is, or each worker that is created in the environment is actually its own data identity. So it pulls its own data, it does its own, check in, check out of code or whatever it needs for a specific task to work. And we offer something that is more holistic in place, meaning that you're able to move data between pods. That means steps or nodes, or even between clusters completely, or even between clouds without waiting for that data weight or for that data to be copied fully to the remote cluster. So we have customers that have been using this scaling capability because they have some of their code is developed or used on-prem, but actually they are doing testing and unit testing in the cloud environment. So, before introducing data into Kubernetes, they had to fully, sync the on-prem data to the cloud in order to be able to run those automated testing. But with us, they can just start the test, and I'll touch about specific capabilities that are helping our customers making that impact. But in essence, they are able to move data a lot more faster and make their CI pipeline be far more agile, or far more to the point, and not spending time waiting for progress bars to continue. And of course, we touched about the last use case about offloading production data sets in second, instead of creating synthetic workloads, and instead of creating data pumping processes. And that is something that, again, we have customers that are, each developer waits for about an hour to get a synthetic backend Oracle database, for example, where with us, with the capabilities that we present, and I'm going to touch about that in a bit, it takes them about, up to 40 seconds to get a cloned environment ready for the developer to start working. Sorry, somebody? Question? Maybe we can mute. Yeah. So that's the use cases in high level. So I talked about the DevOps world and touched a bit about the problems of data weight and how we can address that, and how we can make if we have data that is smarter, data that is part of the Kubernetes platform, how we can benefit from it. So I want to take a step back and introduce Ionir to you. So what is Ionir? Ionir is a purpose-built software-defined storage, or you can call data services that is built on top of Kubernetes. That means that we are built in the Kubernetes concept. So it's all microservices. Our environment runs on your nodes. It collects all the local data, all the local media, and creates a data layer on top of your worker nodes. And that data layer is presented and consumed at the Kubernetes level as if it was a Kubernetes resource. So this is not an external box. This is not, a product or a solution that was built for VMs or for bare metals that got adopted to Kubernetes. We live and we operate within Kubernetes, which means that we are completely cloud native in the way that we work. We do monitoring with Prometheus and Grafana and these kind of projects. We have, a very cutting edge technology used in our product, alongside with our IP products, of course. And we are bringing a scalable, elastic, Kubernetes native data services to DevOps environments, right? But whatever you have in your DevOps environment, we can own. So any persistent data, we are, sorry, it takes a time. So any persistent data that you might run or need to run on your environment, we can, host that, or we can provide data services to that. So, whether it's, giving enterprise capabilities like continuous data protection, and we have all of our volumes, or all of our data is globally deduped within the cluster. So if you have volumes that are containing the same data, and that can be, your Docker images, that can be your, even your Git repos, it can be your artifacts, you only pay for it once, because we have a global deduplication and compression across the entire cluster. And we have far more capabilities about, replication and backups and, application management and so on, all in a single platform. So this is not an external box. This is not, build your own kind of solution. And we can host whatever, workload that you have. If it's like DevOps, Jenkins, for example, Tecton, pipelines we work with, Circle CI and even cloud services, we know to work with these kind of automation engines with what is called like private workers and so on and so on. So this is the power of us. So we are, taking your local media. It can be across all of your nodes. It could be some of the nodes. It can be, a specific set of nodes that you would like to bring those data services to your cluster, and we stretch that and we protect your data, and we make sure that, if a node fails, of course, this is the basics. If a node fails, if media failed, or even any other component in your environment fails, we make sure that the data is there and you can continue to consume that while you fixing your, failed backend for that matter, right? And the two most important capabilities that I want to highlight here that are very important for DevOps environment, and these are the crown jewel in our technology, is our ability to move any volume. If we're talking about in the Kubernetes world, it's any persistent volume or PVC. We are able to move that in space and time. I'm going to explain that. So we have a capability that is called teleport, which allows you actually to move any persistent volume between Kubernetes clusters, no matter how far they are, no matter what's the size of the volume. We can move that between, for example, we did that for a customer between New York and Dublin, two different regions, two different cloud regions in 40 seconds. So our volume was moved from Dublin to New York in 40 seconds. It was a few tens of gigabytes of MongoDB. And we were able to bring another replica or another environment of Mongo in the target side in 40 seconds. That's a very special capability that allows you as a DevOps engineer to just focus on your pipeline or focus on your code, and we are making sure that the data will arrive at the destination at the most optimal time. So you don't have to wait for the entire volume to sync. There's no syncing windows and so on and so on. If you're interested about getting more into this technology, I would be happy to do a deeper dive with you. And you're invited also to the POC, like we talked about previously in the start of the presentation. And the second capability, so we said we have teleport that is able to move data across space, but we also have a capability to move data across time. And that means that we are keeping, you can call it like a log of all of the changes that are happening to your data, to your volume in 1 second granularity scope. So it means that you can roll back. This is of course policy based, and this is what you define, as the DevOps manager or the DevOps platform manager. And then you can move any volume and create clone out of it in a 1 second space. So if you say you have a build that is broken, or if you have incremental build that you need to do, or some build failed after composing let's say 10 images out of 100, and you don't want to start from scratch, then you're able to wind back that data layer to a specific point in time that you're interested in, and just continue and work at that place. And this is of course the clones are done within the same cluster. It takes roughly around 1 second to create an independent clone, and you can take that clone, attach it to a new pod, attach it to a new work node, and get your work done in 1 second. Where in different spaces you have to do backup and restore, and these kind of capabilities are far more hard to implement. And this is why DevOps people mostly don't use these capabilities, because they are hard, they're complex, and they're time consuming. And these two capabilities are designed for DevOps. They are fast to execute. They give you value very, very quick. And you can connect and run your CI pipeline to our data services layer to gain those capabilities. I have one more slide that is about a little bit deeper dive into the concepts. I'm going to run through them pretty quickly. And then if there are questions, we'll do a quick Q&A. So I wanted to take 3 of the use cases that I mentioned before, take them into a deeper dive. and just show you, the value or show you the capabilities that we talked about before, how you can implement that to get those benefits to your CI pipeline. So for this example, this is based on a white paper that we published about a month or two ago, maybe a little bit more than that, about how specifically we talk about Jenkins, because in most places, I guess that if I'll do a poll here, I think let's say 80% or 85 or not even 90% of respondents will be that they're using Jenkins as the engine for DevOps, or that is mostly what we see in the market today that is used in bigger and also smaller customers as well. But as I mentioned before, we do that same concept to Tecton or TeamCity or Bamboo or whatever pipeline that you have. The concepts or the value is the same. The way that you implement that might be different, has different triggers and different callbacks, but the same is applicable for that environment. For scaling and caching, I mentioned that briefly in previous slides as well. The fact that you only pull once and run in parallel. We have also a demo that we did. I think it's on YouTube as well, where we we have a scenario that we pull an entire Git repo and then we distribute that that volume or that workspace that has the entire repo, and then create multiple worker nodes that each one takes a different branch or takes a different feature and implements and run the tests for that specific feature or branch that is checked out or used from the entire repo. And this allows you, instead of running things in a very sequential way, it allows you to run very, very fast and not repeat any data related actions, right? So you pull it once, you run it in parallel. That can be, you can pull even Maven dependencies, for example, and make sure that you have everything that you need, and just clone that with zero impact on the system in means of performance, in means of capacity use, in means of operations, and you get all your workers node up and running with the maximum data that they need to complete the task that they have in front of them. This is the example, and as I said, that can be any data that you pull or that you create in your environment. We can host that in our volumes and present that to the worker nodes wherever they are, right? So they can be on the same node. Some technologies or some platforms have limitation about data sharing between steps or data sharing between worker nodes or between pipelines. And we are solving that because we are at the Kubernetes level. So we don't necessarily care about the platform that is using us. We are relying on Kubernetes as the platform that we're running on. And this gives us a lot of power and a lot of benefits to this environment. And of course, this is using our fast cloning and our cloning capabilities on top of Kubernetes. A second use case or an example is about keeping a specific or branching your data and keeping a specific version that is according to your specific, it can be your specific run or specific build in your pipeline or a specific point in time, or whatever you decide that you want to tag this volume in means of correlating data or correlating the data layer with your CI pipeline. It means of correlation between them, and to know that okay, build 900, this was the result. And if I want to roll back and I want to see the logs or see what the state was in that build, what were the results, I don't have to pull in and out information out of my environments. It's all consist in my environment. And I can pull it out, I can run a worker node, I can attach this PVC, do whatever I want with it, rebuild if we're talking about incremental builds. And you don't have to start from scratch every build that you have in your environment. So you can keep the state, you can rebuild on top of the same images, you don't have to write the same data again. And this allows our customers to really save time of data operations. So whatever it is, bringing your images or bringing whatever data that you have in your pipeline. The third example, again, is what I touched about briefly, is about, being able to, we call it teleport, but in essence is to move data between environment and stages, and it can be even, different tools that are operating on the same data, and you want to reset that data, and you don't want to make sure that, if one build is doing some manipulation on your data set, and you want the next build to get a fresh copy, then there's no problem for us. It means of platform will get you the clone, we can roll it back to a specific point in time. We can give you fresh data on request in under 1 second, even if it's across clusters, and even if it's across clouds, or even if it's across Kubernetes platforms. So for example, if you run OpenShift in AWS and you run Rancher on GCP, for example, for some reason, we can bring you the same data layer across all of those clusters and across all of these environments, because we are Kubernetes native. So we don't care about flavors or cloud providers or whatever that is out there. We make sure that the data layer is consistent across all of these environments. And this is like here we're talking about in the concept of CI/CD pipeline, DevOps, testing, and so on and so on. But this is also very powerful in the multi-cloud space or multi-cluster or hybrid clouds, whatever high-level marketing term you want to call it, but in essence is being able to run your workload anywhere. So we are doing that for data, like Kubernetes is doing that for application. So this is the the holy grail of that approach. And this is just to wrap up. We talked about different stages. This is we got this slide from a CI/CD provider, let's call it, and this is what they see for their customers, right? They see it takes a lot of time to do the linting, unit testing, moving data, and all of these steps that are moving between environments or between stages take a lot of time to do this actual data movement. And with us, with our solution of teleport that is under 40 seconds and 1 second clone, we're able to really cut the data weight delays in your pipeline. So if you have data in your pipeline, we'll be more than happy to talk to you, to learn from you, to show you our product in a POC environment. If there's any questions, please jump on the call and ask them. I'll be more than happy to give you answers, or my best answers, and connect with you later if you're interested. So that's high level before the demo. I'm not sure if we're going to go into the demo yet.
Yeah, thank you very much. And